Welcome back to the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube. Welcome back to Swivel Chair Sports. I'm your host, Zach Zuckerberg-Merkel, here with the ghost today, Aaron. Go and say hi, Aaron.
Hi.
Alright, in this video, we will be giving you our NFL regular season award predictions for the 2024 NFL season. We'll be giving you our predictions for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and the all-important MVP trophy / best quarterback in the league trophy. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
If you like our video, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment and let us know what you think.
On our way to 250 subscribers, so your subscription means a lot in helping us reach that goal. But back to the video. So starting off, we'll begin with the rookies and then work our way up to MVP. In order to get that viewer retention. Even though you are feel free to click the chapters down below and go to whatever section you want. But starting off with Offensive Rookie of the Year, kind of going off of another video we recorded recently, which may or may not have come out before this. I can't decide. I've got Jaden Daniels as kind of a dark horse. In all honesty, I mean, I'll let you talk about the other guy, but yeah, I mean, one of my hot takes for the year in a previous video we did is I think Jaden Daniels has a chance to. In the video I said he will, but I think he has a chance to flirt with breaking the single season QB rushing record. Mainly because of the lack of weapons that he has, at least lack of proven weapons he has in Washington, on top of, the running game. Probably going to have to depend on him a lot more than, you probably would like. Brian Robinson Jr. is cool, Austin Eckler's cool, but I imagine Jaden Daniels is going to be very involved in the running game for that Washington Commanders football team this year, on top of probably having to scramble a lot to avoid sacks, create extra time, and then probably end up having to just break one off and run upfield because no one can get open. So, yeah, I think Jaden Daniels has as good a shot as anybody else to win Rookie of the Year just based off his pure potential alone. The weapons he has could be a detriment in that conversation, but if he, breaks the QB rushing record like I think he has an outside chance of doing, I don't see how you could give it to anybody else, to be honest, assuming, his passing statistics are up to snuff. So, Jaden Daniels, Offensive Rookie of the Year, starting the campaign now.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a big fan of Jaden Daniels. I do think they'll probably give Caleb Williams, if they have so much stats, they'll give him a nod because he's the big name. I think he's also going into a better situation, so that'll probably help a little bit. But that's the pick that everybody expects.
Right.
If you want a non-quarterback, look for Brian Thomas Jr. down there in Jacksonville. A very electric receiver, going into a decent situation with a quarterback who some could argue is looking to sort of reprove and solidify himself as a franchise guy down there. I like Brian Thomas Jr. as sort of an outside pick for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I mean, I would love that because he was the 5th receiver I took in my recent fantasy football draft that you assisted me with, so thank you for being the co-GM there. But, yeah, I mean, he's got out of all of the non-quarterbacks, like you said, because it's probably going to QB, he's probably going to the best situation, I would say, right? Because, yeah, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., I guess, with Kyler Murray to throw to, but Kyler Murray hasn't proven that he can stay healthy consistently. So, I mean, neither Trevor Lawrence...
I think Jacksonville's the better all-around offense as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm more talking about. I mean, James Conner's pretty good running back over there in Arizona, but very inconsistent offensively for that Cardinals team in recent history, whereas Jacksonville, when, Trevor Lawrence is not limping around the field with a bum ankle, their offenses started to look pretty good these last couple years, especially the end of 2 seasons ago and the beginning of last year before the ankle injury. So I expect Trevor Lawrence to, maybe come back, with a little bit of something to prove, perhaps. Also, I'm not super confident in Christian Kirk's ability to be consistent or be consistently healthy, even. But definitely, like, he seems like he's been kind of up and down his whole career. He's been an above average wide receiver for sure, but he's definitely not a number one, I don't think. So if Brian Thomas Jr. can come in and take that number one receiver role away, I could definitely see him, at least being in the conversation, because inevitably nobody outside of the quarterback position is going to really win this award. But I don't hate that pick at all. I think he could maybe lead all rookies in receiving yards this year, potentially. So
yeah.
As for my, go ahead.
Oh, doesn't matter who you want. I can go if you.
Oh, were you about to do defensive?
Yeah.
Oh, go for it then. Yeah.
I got Terrion Arnold, the DB there for Detroit. Not a lot of other guys are, in starting roles. He's already listed as a starting corner for Detroit. So not only is he probably guaranteed to get a lot of the playing time, but that is a very good defense with some other good DBs. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a lot of targets solely because he's the worst or least proven back there in Detroit. So I could see him having a sort of standout year, and just kind of going for a pick that's not an edge rusher for once.
Yeah, I was about to say you went DB, so you had more testicular fortitude than I have, because I wanted to go DB but just couldn't bring myself to do it. I went Jared Verse, rookie out of Florida State, heading over to the Rams. Obviously, the Rams moving on from Aaron Donald. Well, not their choice. He retired. They would never move on from Aaron Donald if they had a choice. But Aaron Donald retires, so you bring in Jared Verse, as well as Florida State teammate Braden Fisk, to shore up that defensive line that needed a little bit of a reload, some might say. Jared Verse last year in his second season with Florida State and junior year overall, because he started off at Albany up in New York. 12.5 sacks, or sorry, 9 sacks, that's tackles for loss. 12.5 tackles for loss, if anyone is wondering that. But he had 9 sacks on the year, so back-to-back 9-sack seasons at Florida State. Braden Fisk alongside him also had 6 sacks last year. So obviously they've got a little bit of a rapport there, playing together, probably play off each other fairly well at this point, I would hope, having played an entire season together on one of the best teams in the nation last year. Obviously kind of falling off a little bit now. Sorry, FSU fans. Kind of sucks to suck. But yeah, I mean, Jared Verse was my favorite edge rusher coming out of the draft. Probably more so to be different than anything, if we're being honest, because Dallas Turner and Latu seem to be the more highly touted ones, at least as far as experts go. But I was high on Jared Verse. I mean, from what I've seen, he was kind of under the radar. I mean, he was a first-round pick, so I mean, not much under the radar. But as far as those top-tier edge rushers go, with like Dallas Turner and Latu, he was just kind of like forgotten about in that pack. It felt like during leading up to the draft this past offseason. Chop Robinson even seemed like he got a little bit more buzz around him than Verse did. But Verse seems like he gets off the line really quick. He's really strong. I expect the dude, I mean, I think he had one of the best benches in the combine, 31 bench press. So the dude's strong as hell, gets off the line quick, and he seems to have a knack for finding that angle to the quarterback that not everyone, possesses naturally. So doesn't have to work quite as hard to get those sacks, at least from what I've seen. But yeah, I've got Jared Verse, Defensive Rookie of the Year. I like him.
Yeah, I like it.
We're moving on to the Offensive Player of the Year. I think it's a guy who we all assumed was going to be in Offensive Rookie of the Year conversations last year. And due to piss poor coaching down there in Atlanta, he was not. I got Bijan Robinson.
Wow.
I think so. I was high on him coming out. I drafted him in fantasy last year. I thought he was going to explode onto the scene, but unfortunately, Arthur Smith had other plans. Apparently, having leaned on Tyler Algier, who's cool, more often than I would have liked. I feel like Bijan should have gotten more opportunities than he ended up receiving. I would like to think that Raheem Morris and that staff recognized that. And
well, you also wanted that because he was on your fantasy team.
For sure. But you know, he looked really good when he had the ball in his hands. So he does some special stuff. He can catch it out of the backfield just as well as he can run it. And with new quarterback Kirk Cousins in town, I think he's gonna rely on him a lot more in the pass game than he was maybe doing with his running backs up in Minnesota. Just because Bijan's a little bit more dynamic than those guys were. Yeah, I think on top of having a better quarterback, should hopefully being able to provide, or on top of getting more opportunities, having a better quarterback should also provide a little bit more space, room for him to run. Probably not going to be able to load up the box as much, so that should be obviously in his benefit as well. I expect Bijan Robinson, let's see, what did he have last year? I think he had like just over 1,000 yards rushing, if I remember right, because he actually somehow snuck out into that club, despite me being upset, I believe. Oh no, just under 1,000 yards. He finished with 976, another 487 through the air. So my prediction for him is probably going to be over 1,200 yards rushing. Last year, the big thing for him was only 4 touchdowns. I think he probably bumps that up to at least 10 rushing touchdowns this year, I would like to think. So 1,200 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, and then on top of that, I think he also pitches in 600 passing yards. That'd be
impressive. 600 passing
That
yards.
Would be impressive.
You going Wildcat down there in Atlanta.
600 receiving yards, and then maybe another 5+ touchdowns through the air. So, yeah, Bijan Robinson coming off of maybe a little bit disappointing rookie season in some people's eyes. Ends up winning Offensive Player of the Year in his sophomore year, in my opinion.
How much money would that break in as a prop bet for Bijan Robinson to have more passing
600 passing yards? That would be, yeah. He might have more passing yards than Michael Penix. It may only take 50.
He might. Yeah, my Offensive Player of the Year is the chalkiest of chalk picks.
Tyreek Hill.
I went with Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, well, another chalk pick, yeah.
Yeah. One of the most obviously dynamic players. Great running and receiving. There's not a whole lot to be said other than just go watch his highlights. He's just unbelievable. So I've got Christian McCaffrey there.
Yeah, I've got so I guess kind of the way I was looking at it is I would like to think Bijan Robinson can come close to matching the statistical output that Christian McCaffrey puts up. Assuming that the Niners maybe pass the ball a little bit more with Purdy, continuing to develop. But I
putting a lot of faith in an unproven coaching staff, whereas we know
fair.
What Shanahan likes to do, how creative he can be.
No, very fair. I get what I was about to say is I think the voter fatigue may happen with him. They may not go back-to-back seasons. Just because
I just don't think it necessarily applies to him.
That's fair. I mean, especially if he finishes with 1,500 rushing yards and 750 receiving yards, then yeah, it definitely doesn't matter at that point. But
I get what you're saying. I get that. I get the player fatigue.
Yeah.
And it's just not the same with him to me.
Well, no, and I mean it's only I think it would only be like the third time in NFL history that anyone won back-to-back Offensive Player of the Year, or a running back maybe won back-to-back Offensive Player of the Years. The third player, period. Both running backs, though. Marshall Faulk and Earl Campbell. But moving on to our Defensive Player of the Year.
Literally our Defensive Player of the Year.
Our Defensive Player of the Year. The one who we both think, because we should have chatted about this one specifically beforehand. I've got, and I know you've got, at least originally, maybe you picked another one just to be different now. and have something else to bring to the table. But feel free to expand upon. No. Feel free to just expand upon this one. If this say it with your chest, you know what I'm saying. But Max Crosby, we've seen firsthand how dangerous that dude can be off the edge. So you add a guy like Christian Wilkins to that defensive line to cause more attention to go away from one of the top 5 edge rushers in the league, probably definitively, in Max Crosby. I think he's going to explode this season. I think he's got a huge chip on his shoulder as well. He always does. He always does. Like, he just finds chips, puts them on his shoulder for fun, it feels like. But no, I think he's going to have an incredible year. Just coming off back-to-back 10-plus sack seasons, having 12.5 in 2022, 14.5 in 2023. I think he'll continue to increase that output. Maybe crack 17, flirt with 20 sacks even. But all in all, I think he's going to be a big reason that the Raiders finish as the second best team in the AFC West and above 500, similar to the Browns of yesteryear. And I guess the Steelers of yesteryear as well. But I think he's going to have a very similar effect to what Myles Garrett and TJ Watt provided to their respective franchises last season. And basically, it's going to be kind of the same story, just with a different player in my eyes with Max Crosby this year. So.
Yeah, I kind of opposite of you think he'll be a shining light in a very, very, very dark hole that is the Raiders franchise. It's only going to get easier for him adding Christian Wilkins to that D-line, drawing attention away from him. So that'll be fun to watch when he's not playing the Chiefs. But just to kind of throw out another name out there, Chris Jones, top 2 D tackle for, the past 5 years or so. And the guy who was in front of him just retired. So I think he's probably a shoo-in for Defensive Player of the Year candidate. One of the most disruptive D tackles in the game, getting similar production to a lot of edge rushers as far as sacks go, which is absolutely nuts from a D tackle. So just another guy to keep your eye on, Chris Jones.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know why he didn't pop into my head being a Chiefs fan and all. Had 15.5 sacks back in 2022. Last season he played an entire year. He only missed the one game last year, but let's not tell him that. Anyway,
between you and me.
Yeah. 10.5 sacks last year. Not even playing the entire season. So, no, I think he's just as good of a candidate as anyone. Coming off of that fat payday, I would like to think he's more motivated than ever to get the three-peat. That's a big reason he came back, on top of the massive paycheck he received in the first place. So yeah, I don't hate that pick at all. I think he'll definitely be in the running. He was third in the race 2 years ago. Last year, had he played all 17 games last year, man, who knows what would happen?
Who knows what we could have accomplished if he played the entire season?
All pro first team, back-to-back years. So yeah, I think he'll cement himself as the best D tackle now that Aaron Donald's retired this season. Moving on to our Coach of the Year conversation. Similar to what I did with my offensive rookie pick, and I guess my defensive player pick too. I'm kind of building this off of the other video we recorded this evening. I've got Matt LaFleur for the Green Bay Packers winning Coach of the Year. If you've been following us these past few months, you would know that I've got the Packers as the number 1 seed in the NFC finishing the season. Hey guys, so this video was supposed to come out before the Week 1 games, and since then, obviously, Jordan Love has gotten hurt and is set to miss, I think, at least 4 weeks of the season, which makes me just double down on my prediction of having Matt LaFleur be head coach of the year, because I think they're going to go on a 3-1 stretch in these next 4 weeks. Stands Jordan Love with Malik Willis, or maybe they bring in Ryan Tannehill, I don't know. But yeah, this does not change my prediction whatsoever. Still got Matt LaFleur winning Coach of the Year, and the Packers going on to clinch the 1 seed in the NFC. Perhaps. I think they're going to continue to build on what was a successful end of the season last year. And Matt LaFleur is going to cement himself as one of the best head coaches in the league, right up there with, maybe that second tier of guys. I guess third tier if you want to put Andy Reid in one by himself, Mike Tomlin in one by himself. But underneath the Tomlins and the Shanahans and the Reeds, and maybe even flirting with being up in that same conversation if he wins a Super Bowl. But yeah, I think the Packers are going to finish with 12-plus wins, win the division after finishing as a 7 seed last year. I think LaFleur will take that next step in being one of the best head coaches in the NFL today.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I almost made that pick, but I went with who I thought it should have been last year. I went with DeMeco Ryans. Just the speed at which that franchise turned around underneath his tenure is unbelievable. Went out and got some key pieces, and obviously he's the mentor to that defense with some young guys down there. So I think they continue their success as a team, and he gets recognized this year as Coach of the Year.
Wrapping up this video with our final award prediction, we've got the all-important, coveted NFL MVP trophy. Obviously, last year, Lamar Jackson won it for his second time in his career. And if we're being honest, the favorite right now seems to be a man in Kansas City known as Patrick. But for the sake of not picking, the easiest choice in Patrick Mahomes here, I went CJ Stroud, which isn't really that much hotter of a take, to be honest. But I want to be right, so I'm going to go with CJ Stroud, because I think with the addition of Stephon Diggs, you still have Tank Dell and Nico Collins on top of that. You got Joe Mixon now to take a little bit of pressure off of me even. Assuming there's no such thing as a sophomore slump for this guy, which there was no such thing as a rookie wall for this guy last year, so I suspect this could be the case. CJ Stroud's incredible. You add more incredible pieces around him, he's going to be more incredible. So I think he finishes with, I'll go out on a limb and say he finishes with 5,000 passing yards, but only 45 touchdowns.
Only 45.
Only 45. He doesn't eclipse the 50 mark, because he doesn't have to, because they'll be blowing teams out a lot, I think. NFL standards of blowouts, which is like 12 points. But yeah, I think he's gonna take another huge leap forward and enter the conversation of best quarterback not named Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, CJ Stroud's my guy, but I went with somebody who I think the media might be itching to sort of anoint, and is geared to do so with an offense down there in Miami. I went with Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
Added OBJ to an already, absolutely ridiculously fast offense. And, maybe their defense isn't quite as good, so they have to, score a few more points than the Texans might have to. So maybe his stats are a little bit better, but I think Tua is primed for a career season down there in Miami, and that'll probably catapult him to the MVP.
Yeah, I thought Tua was on my mind as well. Obviously, I think he led the league in passing yards last year. Helps when you've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle who can just catch a slant and fucking take off for 75 yards. But that's beside the point. He is a good quarterback, all things considered. Incredible accuracy, which is a huge reason he's able to succeed as much as he is.
When he's not playing in minus 40 degree weather.
When he's not playing in, the coldest weather known to man. Another guy I kind of flirted with, but then immediately kind of took off the board because I don't think he's going to do enough. Not because he can't, but because he won't have to. Brock Purdy was kind of on my mind as well. You got guys like Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Trent Williams just, they made him happy. And then you got Christian McCaffrey, who can obviously catch the ball out of the backfield. But he's also probably going to have like 1,200 rushing yards. So I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to throw for 4,500 yards. I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to throw for 40-plus touchdowns, which probably is going to take him out of that conversation, I feel like. What are your thoughts there?
How good he is gets overshadowed by the talent he has around him, I think. I think a lot of the credit for that offense is given to Shanahan, Samuel, McCaffrey, and really he's the conduit through which it all flows. So I don't hate that take. He's probably deserving of being up there in that conversation.
Right.
He probably will be, but not like super seriously in like top 3. He'll probably be like, I don't know, top 7 in contention.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the credit goes elsewhere on that team.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Is there's just too much credit to go around to multiple players that
which is completely a paradox, considering Tua has all that talent around him.
Yeah, and they weren't saying anything about
get the credit.
That's a good point.
It's just the way it's gone so far for him.
Yeah, I think another dark horse candidate maybe could be like a Jalen Hurts. I think he could maybe make his way into that conversation if he improves as a passer, because I think that's going to end up being the big question mark for him. We know he can run the ball. Is the touch push going to be? That could also
will improve now that he's not listening to Sirianni anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think the tush push could be dead with Jason Kelce being gone.
Nah.
You don't think so? Okay, well in that case, then that's like 20 rushing touchdowns right there for the guy. So, throw 40 touchdowns, all of a sudden you're attributing for 60 scores, and how can't you get the MVP? But no, I think there's a ton of quarterback, because if we're being honest, this is a quarterback exclusive award at this point. So I think there's several candidates from Mahomes all the way down to possibly Trevor Lawrence even. There's
Joe Burrow,
Josh Allen. Like there's like Aaron
Rodgers, all these
8-9 guys you could probably say has a chance to win this if their season goes the right way. So why don't you let us know who you think's going to win MVP down below? But yeah, no, it should be a really fun season. I think all of these awards kind of has a plethora of guys to go after it. Defensive Player of the Year last few seasons kind of came down to just 2 dudes. I think we could see 4 or 5 maybe even being involved this season, assuming one guy doesn't just completely run away with it like we've seen in the past. But same with Offensive Player of the Year. It seems like it's kind of been either a wide receiver or quarterback award. Well, I guess McCaffrey won it last year. I don't know. Offensive Player of the Year, you could see anyone from quarterback, wide receiver, or running back winning that award. Probably goes more towards wide receiver, running back, I would hope, just to, we got the MVP, guys. Just name that the best quarterback award and name the Offensive Player of the Year award the best non-quarterback award. Just do that. You might as well just do that now. But it'll be exciting.
MVP. Hey, Taylor Swift for MVP?
Hey, apparently she's drawing up plays. So, anything's possible, man. Like
Taylor Swift Coach of the Year.
Like Kevin Garnett said, and then Jason Tatum ripped off. Anything's possible. Or, I don't think he said that. We did it. That's what he said. He said we did it. That's the one he ripped off. Quote unquote. But unless you got...
because that's not a totally common saying.
Right, yeah. Fuck everybody. Unless you got everything else. Unless you've got anything else. Jeez Louise.
I've got everything else.
You've got everything else. That'll do it for this episode of the most professional sports channel on YouTube, Swivel Chair Sports. I've been your host, Zach Circleberg Burkle, here with the host today, Aaron. Go and say bye, Aaron.
Bye.
Alright, please make sure to like and subscribe if you've made it this far into the video. Give your predictions down below. Give your award predictions down below. Goodness gracious. Give your award predictions down below. That way we can see whether you agree or disagree with us. And if you disagree with us, you're probably going to be right. So keep that in mind. Other than that, deuces. Have a good day.